Hello, YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. If you are watching us on YouTube, well, of course you are, or else how else are you watching this? But anyway, I thought I would jump on here real quick and film a quick intro so that you could actually see the to-do list you hear me talk about all throughout today's episode on the podcast. So let me present it to you. Da 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 da! I don't know how well you can see this, but when I say I use a paper copy, I'm really telling you the truth. I customized this to-do list for myself years ago. It's a to-do list some of my staff loved using. It was just an awesome tool for us because I found that a lot of the other to-do lists either didn't have everything on there I wanted, or it was too many tasks, or they didn't have enough room for brainstorming and things like that. So I literally divided up my to-do list into different sections. And just like I talked about, there's a section for brainstorming. There's a section for the, nice to-dos, right? The things that you really want to get to if you can. And then there's a section on here where I fill out my to-dos for the next day. Not the entire to-do list. I just pick my top 3 tasks. And then out of the 3, I'm going to mention which is the most important. So I literally do that. And then, of course, I think I showed you or talked about it on the podcast. Here's my trusty red pen. Red is such a powerful color. And so it's important to check things off in a color that is very visual. And red definitely is. I talk about that on the podcast. And I personally love a sharpened pencil. I love it. When I want to erase something because maybe the order of my to-dos needs to change. I don't know. There's something about a sharpened pencil. It must be my school teacher days when I taught classes, but I just love everything about a sharpened number 2 pencil. So that's what I enjoy using. And of course, I talk about red. Even my clipboard is red, you guys. You see my office. I've got lots of red back here. It is a big part of my logo and on my website, all the things. It's my signature color and I love it. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast about the power of a to-do list. And our goal today is to make sure you're making a to-do list that truly inspires you and doesn't send you into a state of depression, okay? That's our goal. I know we can accomplish it. Enjoy today's episode. I'll see you soon.
Are you a strong, independent woman who's passionate about her career? Then this podcast is perfect for you. Based on her book, The Career Woman's Secret Playbook, career coach Dr. Dawn Hamby shares the kind of insider secrets you can only know if you've hired, fired, and promoted employees over the past 30 years.
Ladies, I'm on a mission to help busy women just like you create a career and life you love without sacrificing your work-life balance to get it. Come join me as we inspire and motivate each other only as women can and have lots of fun along the way.
With Dr. Dawn's tools, strategies, and action steps, you can unleash your personal and professional power in a whole new way. Here's today's episode.
Hello, listeners, and if you're watching us on YouTube, hello, YouTube, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to another empowering episode of the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn, CEO and founder of Dr. Dawn ShopTalk, and today, I am so excited. I'm so thrilled to be here today and talk to you about something that is so important. Yes, I'm talking about a to-do list. I'm talking about what seems like that never-ending list of to-dos, and today we're going to tackle it in a brand new way. We're going to talk about a way to create a to-do list that actually inspires you and doesn't depress you. You guys, if you know me personally, especially if you're a client of mine, you know we go over this because I'm telling you what, there is something magical about creating a to-do list, whether it's an old-fashioned paper copy or if you're more electronic and that's kind of your jam, you will feel such a sense of accomplishment if it's created in the right way and if it's done in a way that matches your skill set, your personality, your energy. We're going to talk about all of that today. So I am actually actually thrilled to talk about something that can affect all of us, no matter what stage of our career or life we are in. I promise you, the art of creating a to-do list that not only boosts your productivity, but also boosts your mood rather than sending you into a state of depression is pretty motivating. So I am so excited that you are here. Now, if you are watching us on YouTube, I've got to show you something. Are you ready? This is my customized personal to-do list. Now, if you're a client of mine, then this looks familiar. And if you're one of my employees, one of my former employees, this also probably looks familiar because it was a tool we used in our office all the time. It is easy to get overwhelmed, like I said, whether you use a paper copy or an electronic one. And so if you're not careful, it can really kind of send you into a very stressful state where you feel like you'll never get done because it does seem very endless, and it seems like not only are you not getting very far, but it just feels like you'll never get done with those tasks if you don't kind of group them in a way that works for you. So for example, with my to-do list, I like both an electronic version and a paper copy. I have sort of the electronic version for me would actually be on my Outlook calendar. I like to color code it and things like that. But the paper version to me is very inspiring because I literally will take, let me reach over here for it, my favorite red pen. And you guys, there is such magic in checking those items off one by one. Now, we're going to go over that when we talk about the strategies in more detail. And I'll tell you a little bit more about why the color red is very, very powerful. But before we actually get into all of that, if you are a faithful listener, then you know the drill. I'm going to go ahead and welcome our newbies to the podcast. Or if you are, again, watching us on YouTube, I want to welcome you there as well. We are thrilled that you're joining us today and that you found our podcast and are checking us out. On this podcast, we're going to tackle topics just like these together so that we can figure out all the best strategies to help us improve our lives, whether it's our professional life or personal life. So if topics like these sound like you're definitely in the right place. And if this kind of content is something you enjoy, it would mean the world to us if you would consider rating, reviewing, and subscribing, not just to the podcast, but also to our YouTube channel. And if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate that. And for both platforms, be sure to give us a 5-star rating if you can. We just would love that. It really does help get our message out to more amazing career professionals just like you. So big thanks to all of you that have done that so far. You are in our hearts forever if you have. And again, thank you so much if you'd consider doing that for us. All right, are we ready to get back to the episode? I left off talking about the power of color. Now, we're going to definitely talk about the power of the to-do list, but I do want to mention something about color. Whether you use a paper copy like I do, or if you're really fancy schmancy, some of my girlfriends, in fact, I was talking to a friend of mine today, and they use their iPad, which has some really cool features to it that include everything from color coding to highlighting, where you can visually see what you've accomplished. There really is a lot of power to that, so I'll talk about that as well. But the color red is a powerful color for lots of reasons. Did you know that there's brain research behind the fact that you can see the color red better than any other color? It's really interesting. In fact, as a former school teacher, now it makes sense to me that we used to grade all of our papers in red. And you guys, they kind of stopped doing that for a little while because I think some teachers were maybe using that red pen a little bit too much, stressing out their students where their papers would come back bleeding the color red. Now, if it's fabulous things that you're writing in red, well, if you're a student and your teacher did that, I'm sure you loved it, but that wasn't always the case. So in any event, if the color red is a color that inspires you, you now know you can see it really easily. I've always personally loved the color red. I can see why it's considered to be a powerful color, the color of confidence even. And in fact, it's my signature color that I use both in my business, on my logo, but even throughout my home. I always have little touches of red, like in the kitchen, or red flowers, or in the, living room with paintings that have little touches of red. So I am all about that color. And now you know a little bit more about why, right? And how you can use it on your to-do list to be a real advantage to you. Okay, guys, so we're going to talk about several tips. But before we do, I want to talk about the power of why a to-do list works, regardless of the format that you're going to use, okay? Let's start by recognizing the fundamental importance of a to-do list. They're really like a roadmap or like a playbook that guides us through our tasks and responsibilities. However, how often have you been like me and just found yourself overwhelmed and stressed and even defeated? You kind of shoot yourself in the foot before you even get out of the starting gate. So we definitely don't want that. We also don't want you to feel like it's a never-ending list of to-dos that never seem to get done, okay? So that's the purpose behind me being so excited to bring you this topic today. Of course, I'm excited about all of our topics, but this is something I use every single day, and it's a tool that's been very effective for my clients. So today I'm going to share several of my favorite strategies that I believe are really going to transform your to-do list into a source of inspiration and motivation. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. All right, tip number 1, let's shift from overwhelming to empowering. Well, that sounds great, doesn't it? But how do we actually do that? What is the key to crafting a to-do list that doesn't depress you? Well, the secret behind that really lies in this. It lies in shifting your mindset. So instead of seeing your list as an overwhelming pile of obligations, view it as a collection of opportunities to make progress, achieve your goals, and to grow. Embrace the power of positive thinking and use that to-do list of yours now as a tool for self-empowerment. I promise you, it really does work. When I whip out my to-do list and I see how far I've come, there's such power in that. In fact, it really helps you feel like you're accomplishing quite a bit in your day. Now, I'm going to share some other strategies of what I want you to put on your to-do list in a little bit, but right now, just realize there's true power in seeing what you've planned for the day and how far you've come. There really is. Now, I'm going to give you more detail about that in a little bit, but for now, just realize that if you shift your mindset about how you see it, you're already on your way to making this an incredible tool for yourself. Okay, guys, tip number 2, the magic of prioritizing. Let's talk about that. When we talk about prioritizing your goals, one of the reasons why is because it can really feel so discouraging and disheartening if you really are coming at it from this feeling that nothing ever gets really accomplished or finished. Because if you're just taking a bunch of to-dos and moving it to the next day, well, it's kind of hard to feel like you've accomplished anything at all. So here's how I want you to address it. Let's combat this from the get-go by focusing on what your most important tasks are. In fact, you guys, that's why I created my own to-do list and shared it with my employees and clients, because there really wasn't a to-do list I felt that incorporated all the things I wanted. Number 1, I didn't want it to overwhelm people, so we'll get into that in just a little bit. So I limited the number of places to put your tasks, but also there was really no way to prioritize those tasks, especially when you got to the end of the day in terms of thinking about what your priorities would be the next day. See, if you don't write down your top 3 priorities for the next day before you leave the office, whether you're working remotely or in an actual physical office, let me tell you what happens. You get to the office, you check your email first thing in the morning, which you really shouldn't do. That's a whole other issue. And somebody else's agenda becomes yours. So instead of your most important tasks being at the top of your to-do list because you put them down as your top task the day before while it was fresh on your mind, you kind of start your day behind the 8 ball. So it's really important to prioritize those tasks, okay? All right, not only that, but it's important to also break down those priorities even further if you can. I recommend breaking your list into 3 more categories, and we're calling it this: the must-dos, the should-dos, and the nice to-dos. In other words, those things that you really must do, they've got to be number 1 and number 2 on that list. The things you should do obviously should get accomplished, but it's not the top priority. Okay, you might even be flexible enough to be able to put that on another day. And in fact, we're going to get that in terms of flexibility. We're going to talk about that in the next tip. So hang on just a minute for that. But the nice to-dos are those items that if you end up with a little extra free time, it's great if you've got that extra free time and you've already tackled the must-dos and the should-dos. Here's your chance to get to the nice to-dos. And man, when you tackle that, you really feel like you've accomplished a lot because you have. So tackling your must-dos really does ensure that you're always making progress on what truly matters, not just to you, but probably also to your company. Okay, because it probably affects that bottom line. Okay, you guys, let's move on to tip number 3. I'm calling it embrace realism, and there's that flexibility we talked about. Okay, so here's the deal. It's easy to fall into the trap of overloading your to-do list. If you do that, you are automatically setting yourself up for disappointment and failure instead of success. So let me talk about that for a minute. Do you know when I said a little earlier that I broke it down for my clients and for myself into smaller tasks, and I made sure I put a limit on that number? Well, you know how I normally give you 5 tips? Today I'm going to give you a little extra, but there's a little magic in the number 5. It's a little bit more than 2 or 3, but it's not 9 or 10, so it feels very doable. So on my to-do list, I'm going to break that down into 5 tasks. 5 tasks that you really tackle in the morning and another 5 in the afternoon. Now, I break it down even further, so you'll have to check out our website to see that, but it's really pretty cool because we break it down into different kinds of tasks, and there are other things that we add to it. It's not all work related, and so I'll get into that in just a little bit. But if you overload your to-do list, I promise you're already going to feel so stressed out, and this to-do list is not going to inspire you. It's definitely not, because you're going to feel like you can't even catch up. Again, you're going to kind of shoot yourself in the foot before you get out onto that track. So you really do need to really think about how much is realistic. So that gets me to this next part. Embrace the realism by recognizing your limits and by also recognizing the time required for each task. So let's talk about both of those. When I say recognize your limits, ask yourself this question: am I a morning person? Or am I an afternoon person or evening person? I've always joked with my family that my name, Dawn, does not mean that I'm a morning person. I've told my family and friends it must have meant that I like staying up till dawn. Because I am a night owl. I have to fight against this tendency to stay up, watch a movie, read a great book, go out for a late dinner or dessert with friends or, those kinds of things. So if I'm not careful, I can watch 20 episodes of something, stay up till 2 in the morning. So I realize that's not productive for me. And so now I get up much earlier, get much better sleep, all of those things. But I also realize that when it comes to my work, even though I am a night owl, I really do get the best quality of my work done in the morning. I really do. In fact, I have a client I'm thinking about. You know who you are if you're listening to this podcast. And she found out the same thing about herself. She was staying up way too late. She didn't have a good morning or evening routine. So what would happen with her is she didn't really know where to prioritize those tasks. So if you get the best quality work done in the morning, then you're going to need to do your most important tasks, or maybe those computer related tasks, usually in the morning. Now, she's like me. She gets fueled by other people. She's a people person, and so she realized that she enjoyed getting on the phone and meeting with folks in person in the afternoon. In fact, most of the time we had our coaching sessions at our favorite coffee shop in the afternoon because it was a delightful way for both of us to end our day. So think about that. What are your energy cycles? If you know that you don't really get fueled by people, and in fact, you need some downtime because you're more of an introvert, then the last thing you're going to want to do is schedule a lot of meetings in person in the afternoon. That might be the time that's best for you to do your concentrated computer work. So really think about that. Here's another tip. I talked about time, the amount of time required for each task. Now, I believe in time management so much, I've devoted an entire chapter about it in my book. I've got lots of episodes on the YouTube channel and on the podcast. So again, I'll include those in the show notes for you. So here's what I want you to think about. If you have no idea how long certain tasks take, that's probably why your to-do list is getting overwhelmed anyway. So here's how you do that. I call it being your own time PI. In other words, be your own private investigator and start timing yourself. Whip out your cell phone, head over to that stopwatch feature, and go ahead and time how long it takes to do the tasks that you know you do all the time. You don't have to time every little thing in your life, okay? I mean, I like an afternoon cup of coffee, but I'm not going to time how long it takes me to do that. But I might time how long it takes me to make the bed in the morning, how long it takes me to pre-program that coffee pot, something like that, because it's something I do every day. Now, when it comes to work, what if I really think it only takes me 10 minutes to craft an email that needs to go out to the whole department, the whole team? But then I time myself and I realize that I usually want it to be phrased just right. Not perfect, but I have this vision of everything I want to cover without making it too long. There are attachments maybe I want to add to that, etc. So when I time myself, I realize it's taking me more like 15 to 20. That's double the length of time that I thought it would take. If you need help with this, guys, I have some resources on the website, so head over there. But in the meantime, just be thinking about that. If you really have no idea how long it takes to finish a presentation or make a speech or make a phone call, start timing yourself. It is so freeing to realize that you've got plenty of time to get those tasks done. And if you don't, I'm giving you permission to put those tasks on for the next day. And that's not going to add to this belief, okay, this disempowering belief that your to-do list is never endless. It's not really that. What you're doing is, again, you're prioritizing what needs to get done today. So the task that you've put on for tomorrow, you're telling yourself it's okay to tackle that the next day. Again, go back to that previous tip about your mindset so that you're not dismantling your best efforts. Don't forget also to leave room for unexpected developments. For example, when I work with clients, we always work on getting places early. Now, even if you're somebody who's always 10 minutes late, listen, my family was so bad about this that back in the day when we had VHS tapes, you guys, whenever we would watch a movie that maybe we saw in the theater years ago, the benefit of always being 10 minutes late everywhere you go is that when you watch that movie, it seemed like a brand new movie. Why? Because we had always missed the first 10 minutes of that movie. So then we watch it again years later and we're like, oh, that's why that happened, okay? I don't know if the rest of my family felt that way, but I've always come from a very positive mindset. So that was my take on it. And I think I've now convinced them to see it that way. So when you realize that you're always late, you're going to add stress. You're going to overload that to-do list anyway. So build in extra time. I recommend timing those activities and then build in 20%. When you do, you're going to be one of the few people that gets to that meeting, whether it's virtual or you're actually stuck in traffic. In fact, here's something to do when you're stuck in traffic. Make sure you're listening to a favorite book on tape or music or an inspiring podcast like ours, for example, or others that you find out there that really excite you and get you motivated. And then that way, you're going to enjoy the extra time, even when there's a traffic jam. Like for me, I love books on tape, and one of my favorite genres is murder mysteries. I love it. I love a good thriller, whether it's a spy thriller like espionage, things like that, or like it's an old-fashioned murder mystery. I love mysteries. And so when there's a traffic jam, because I know I'm not going to be late, I operate under that assumption that if you're not 15 minutes early, you're already late. It's a great way to approach getting to places because you're never stressed out. You're enjoying your coffee, your bottled water, whatever the case may be. And then if you're like me, you were like, ooh, I'm going to find out right now who the killer is. So it was an extra way that I took care of myself, and we'll get into self-care in just a minute. So just think about that for now, okay? Remember that being flexible about all of this is really going to be the key to maintaining a healthy and inspiring to-do list. Okay, you guys, let's move on to our next tip. Tip number 4, I want you to celebrate small wins. In other words, no task is too small to celebrate. When you check off an item on your to-do list, take a moment, celebrate that, acknowledge it, and see it for the accomplishment that it is. That positive reinforcement is going to fuel your motivation, and it's going to help you maintain a positive outlook on your task. It really will, because you're going to see that you are making progress. Remember, the goal is progress and not perfection. And if you're still struggling with that perfectionism, I've got lots of episodes about that. So check it out on the podcast and on the YouTube channel. But seriously, you guys, you need to celebrate how far you've come. Don't skip this step. It really can make you feel empowered. It makes you feel like you're in charge of your day and nothing else. And when things don't go your way, then you've got this foundation of faith to be able to handle it no matter what. So really think about celebrating those small wins, and I promise it's going to lead you to big victories. All right, you guys, let's move on to our next tip. Tip number 5, incorporating self-care. Now, I say this all the time. Self-care is not selfish. I believe in this so much that I basically require all of my clients to incorporate self-care on their to-do list, and it's another Dr. Dawn requirement to create a fantastic, fabulous morning and evening routine. That bookend approach to your day is going to be a game changer, I promise. So think about this. When I say incorporate self-care in this to-do list, what I'm really saying is that your to-do list should prioritize more than just your work-related tasks. Incorporate those self-care activities that really fuel you, the ones that uplift your mood, rejuvenate your energy, right? Those kinds of things. Whether it's a 10-minute meditation, a leisurely walk, or enjoying your favorite cup of tea, or in my case, a cup of coffee. Actually, I do love tea too, but you know what I mean. You want to do something that's going to break you away from the work that you're doing, because all of us need to have those built-in breaks. So you figure out ahead of time what that should be and make sure that you're not skipping out on that all-important self-care. When you do, I promise you, your productivity actually goes down, not up. And do you know that you're actually more likely to take out your stress on valued colleagues, on your loved ones, and definitely on yourself? You'll start, kind of beating yourself up because you didn't get everything done, and we definitely don't want that, okay? So moments of self-care really should find not only a place on your list, but a prominent one. Okay, so make that promise to yourself that you're going to do that starting today. Okay, here's one more tip for you. Here's our last tip. It's an important one. It's called the joy of progress tracking. Do you remember when I told you that it's important to see how far you've come? That's the reason why visually I want you to do something that shows you all of that. Whether it's that iPad with those trusty color coding, high-tech ways to track it, or if it's that old-fashioned to-do list, maybe you're using a day planner or something along those lines, or Microsoft Outlook. I love using Outlook along with my paper planner. So keep a separate section on your to-do list to track your progress, whatever that looks like for you. Because I promise, seeing how far you come really can be so incredibly motivating. It's actually a visual reminder that you're making strides and that even if there's more to do, you are still on the right path. All right, as we wrap up today's episode, I encourage you to approach your to-do list with this brand new, fresh perspective. Remember, they're not meant to be stress-inducing documents anyway. They're supposed to be a tool for your personal and professional growth. So starting by shifting that mindset we talked about, that's going to help you start this journey off on the right foot. Don't forget to prioritize effectively, celebrate those small wins, and definitely incorporate that self-care. If you do that, your to-do list can definitely be a source of motivation and inspiration. And don't forget, ladies, I want to make sure we're having a dialogue about today's episode and all of our episodes. So the way to do that is to comment below. I would love to hear about your experiences on this topic. And don't forget that if you're interested in scheduling a 15-minute call, you can do that anytime. Just head over to the website. We can talk about this or any other career or life-related topic that you might need just a little extra help with. It's called your 15-minute consultation call. It's always free and always available to you. All right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast. And don't forget our motto right here at ShopTalk, and it's this: if you're not having a fantastic day, you have the power to make it one.
I know our episode is over, but this is just the beginning. If you're ready to take action but don't know where to start, just head over to drdawnshoptalk.com for lots of free resources, ways to work together, and for even more. Subscribe to the Dr. Dawn Shop Talk YouTube channel. Remember, ladies, you don't have to take this journey alone. I've got you covered. Till next time.